All right, shalom, everybody. I have a very, very special interview for you guys to watch today. It's two very, very special guests. Holly Ann is with us. She is very familiar with Trump's DOJ and all the things that they're working with in regards to CPS, Child Protective Services, and the corruption that's going on across the nation, across the world. And also David Jose. David Jose was actually at a DCS oversight group. There was the Trump Trafficking Council, the National Trump Trafficking Council was there in Arizona, and David was able to prove that trafficking has been going on under the guise of Child Protective Services, CPS, right there in Arizona. So I am very, very happy to have both of them on my show today because it's very, very important to me. I really, really want people to not only understand the corruption that's going on with Child Protective Services, which I know most of my viewers are familiar with, but I also really want people to have practical ways and understandings of if I'm a parent and my child is being threatened to be taken away from me, what can I do? How can I defend myself? Because most people just go to an attorney and that's their first answer. Get a really, try to find a really good attorney. And I think you're going to be surprised at what Holly Ann and David Jose have to say about this. So without further ado, Holly, David, I want to introduce you both to my audience. Holly, we're going to just start with you first, and then we'll move on to David. Go ahead and just introduce yourself and sort of give us some background of what kind of information and things you're involved in regarding this issue.
Okay. Well, my name's Holly. I live in the beautiful state of Florida, and I had my kids taken away, and just like any other parent, I had promptly was right away. I need to find a good attorney, and through my research, I had got connected with a friend that has been working with Trump, the Department of Justice, and has been helping me and educating me. And I've come to realize that the amount of corruption that is rampant in our country, that has been secretly overstretching its power, and basically they're felonies. They are infringing on American people's constitutional rights, which is the supreme law of the land. And so because of that, I have learned of a lot of the different tactics that they try to use to get people, lots of parents, to submit out of fear and then unlawfully take their children so that they get put into foster homes. A lot of times these parents then lose their children because they move them around and then they're just unaccounted for.
Very good. Okay. And then David, go ahead and introduce yourself and give us some of your background.
Okay, so yes, my name is David Jose. I been fighting since 2017. I had the unfortunate problem of having to fight CPS myself. I realized quickly that this system looked nothing like anything in a constitutional republic. The courts allowed lying. The courts hid evidence. So I started to look at all of the systems and try to break down what it was that was happening. And I started looking and doing research to find the source of this system. And in doing that, in my battle with my little ones, I started to figure out what was going on, but it kind of got to the end of the case. So I found out a ton of this information that's been helping other people after my case was pretty much done. And I was in the Supreme Court of Arizona at the same time. After doing the research, I started to find that the very laws that people told us contained information that said that CPS could take kids. I actually found that it said the exact opposite. So since I found the information, I've been able to show other people what was really there. We've done affidavits and different things of that nature. And as of now, we have somewhere between 23, 24, and 30 kids that have been returned in America, and then in one in England.
Wow, that is really, really good. Okay, so before we get into the nuts and bolts of what parents can do, David, I want you to just explain what happened down in Arizona. What were you able to do at that trafficking council?
Well, it was really deep because I started giving private communication to the Supreme Court Justice of Arizona in a meeting a few weeks before he actually came out and told that CPS wasn't a judiciary issue. We went to a judiciary committee meeting. I proved by trust indenture that there was no place for the judges of Arizona to be able to be paid in courts by CPS, where they are at the same time under trust indenture by the people. So when you look in any Declaration of Rights or Bill of Rights in the whole country, you're going to find that it's a trust indenture. Now, most people won't believe that, but if you look at 1877 Georgia Constitution, as ratified without subsequent amendments, is going to tell you that the public servants are the trustees of the people. So once you understand that, in a trust agreement, whatever power you give to the people in trust, that is the only power they have. So we kind of been taught to look at the Constitution backwards. We go and say, is this or that constitutional? We look for an attorney to tell us. What we should say is, show me the page where we told you can do that. Show me the paragraph. And that silences everything. So just like we have simplicity in the gospel, we've been removed from simplicity with the law, and we got to get back. So when the Trump's trafficking council came to Arizona, we didn't know they were going to come. Arizona publicized the event the day before on a holiday. So it was May 27th or May 28th, Memorial Day. They put up that they were going to have the event. I went to the event and some of the other members of the AZ DCS oversight group. And what ended up happening is that one of Trump's head appointees was there, and the DOJ was there, and many other people who actually are arresting or involved with arresting traffickers. And so what we did was 3 of us went up to explain the definition of trafficking. So anytime, just like Deuteronomy 24:7, that anyone makes merchandise of someone or steals someone for money or selleth them, the Bible calls them a thief. So this idea of trafficking and kidnapping, by definition, CPS is taking kids from people in order to make federal funds in a private partnership, and that's what they're doing with the kids. So they're taking the kids and either selling them or making merchandise of them, where they get monthly income or yearly income, $83,000 to $140,000 a year. So what we did was we explained the definition. We showed how Arizona had lost over 1,000 kids in recent history, just lost them. And when I got up, I went back to the Social Security Act, and I went to the original legislation. So the 1935 Social Security Act actually says in it that it is not to be construed, nothing in the act is to be construed to give any federal official, representative, or officer the right to take a child from their parent against the will of the parent. It actually says that in there in Section 11. So where we thought that CPS had the right based on the Social Security Act to take kids, when I went and looked, it actually said the opposite. So when the head woman who was there saw it, everybody's mouth in the room hit the floor. I mean, there's probably 100 people in the room, many of them working in child protection. They're collaborating to give services, which makes them money. Police, judges were there, attorneys, guardian ad litems, all these different people. When they saw that law, their mouth hit the floor because they never seen it. And so 29 days later, the head of CPS in Arizona steps down.
That's incredible. That is incredible. Hallelujah. So guys, again, yeah, this is really good. In fact, before I started the interview, David offered a really, really good analogy with when he talked about the simplicity. You know, rather than listening to all these commentaries and trying to convolute and that try to confuse us with how to understand Scripture, we go to the Bible ourselves, we let the Spirit of God work through us, and we read how simple it is to obey His word, His commandments, to love Him. And it's the same thing with this. They try to confuse us with all of these laws that most of them are, well, all of them are illegal. They're coming against our Constitution. They're coming against the basic Bill of Rights. And as David just used a very simple way of going back to what did the actual Social Security Act say, and then boom, they lost their power. So that was just one little example. Okay, so I want to go into the nuts and bolts of, if I'm a parent, I've got CPS knocking on my door, they're threatening my children, taking them away. What? Because again, the first reaction is I got to find an attorney. I'm going to start with you, Holly, and then I'm going to move to you, David, and let you both respond to this question. So go ahead, Holly.
Absolutely. Well, one thing, one huge misunderstanding about CPS services is they believe that is a government agency. See, all CPS services are all private for-profit businesses. How you can look that up is at manta.com. You can look up their Dun and Bradstreet numbers. I had looked up one of the family services here in my area, and it is a private for-profit corporation, and it has an annual income of $7,076,616 with a staff of 94. So first off, and in my city alone, there's about 3 corporations of that same name. And so there's multiple people profiting off of this. And so the first thing, it is not government. It is a private for-profit organization. It is no different than McDonald's or Walmart. So first off, would you let McDonald's or Walmart come into your house and start wanting to know about how you parent your children, if your house is clean or not? No, nobody would ever allow that. So they are not exempt from that. They have to have a warrant. And so that is only issued upon probable cause. So they have to do their due diligence of finding out what, if there's any kind of complaints, and then getting a testimony by an affidavit under penalty of perjury. And then that is how they get a warrant from an Article 3 court. Then they may now enter. And even on that warrant, if you go back to even just our original Constitution and our state constitutions, a warrant has to say specifically where it is, what it is, where they can find it, and any things or people to be seized. And so it is very specific. So it can't be, oh, we just have a warrant, we're just going to check through your whole house. No, it's not. And that is, again, check our Constitution, our state constitutions. It outlines that very simplistically.
Okay, so this is a really good point, guys, because if somebody just makes some sort of anonymous phone call and complains about your parenting, that's not enough. You need to demand that they get a warrant, that there's affidavits to back up this warrant, that there's all these things. Although I will say, I know, I've heard from people that say, well, what about when these CPS, they show up with the police and, they have maybe a warrant that was just hastily signed by a judge. What do I do in that situation?
Well, they actually cannot come to you like that. When they have multiple people of government, so that's when you have public servants, especially when they usually get cops involved. When you start having multiples of them, that is, that's intimidating. That would put anybody under duress. And so those are actually felonies. It is a felony under Title 18, United States Code Section 241. So when they come, because color of law, so just because they're wearing their police uniforms, it doesn't give them a right. That's not how they're supposed to be acting in their governmental capacity. That means they're just, that's like a bunch of henchmen coming to you. And so I've seen videos, people do get intimidated. It is scary, and they cannot use coercion and fear to rule lawfully.
Amen. Okay. So Holly, I want to let you continue with anything else you'd like to talk about with the nuts and bolts of what parents can do. We're in this situation, and then I'm going to move to David and let him talk about what he knows as well.
Okay. Big thing about not letting them start intruding into your life unless they have a warrant. And also big thing is do not sign anything. A lot of this has to do with contract law, where they're duping you into services and programs with the promises of, oh, you'll get your kid back if you do this. But there's so many numerous stories, I'm sure you've heard of them too, where people will have, no, we have to do this drug test, and then all of a sudden they say, oh, it was positive, and the parent will like go to another one so that they can try to prove like, no, there's no drugs in my system. It's a bunch of hoops that they try to have you go through. Record everything, because again, a lot of this is private, and so they you don't know how they will construe what you are saying. A lot of times, if you are having a disagreement with your partner, they can say, oh, there's domestic violence. They were having this argument. So it's very important that you record everything, because how my friend had described it to me is, as much as they're trying to put a case together against you, what you're doing then is, if you can stand up for your rights, know what you can do, record everything. You are building a case against them about how they are depriving you of your rights and how they are acting very unlawfully.
Absolutely.
They are huge into dividing families. So again, that's, if you think about it, if they're supposed to be there for the welfare of children and families, like, they will tell you to split with your husband or your wife or over domestic violence issues. They will try to tell you can get your kids faster if you do this. It's try to remain not fearful, and realize that if you have a loving family, just because of fear, do not let their lies try to divide this family further. Yeah, it's not uncommon for them. Once they take your children, a lot of times they will diagnose them with a multitude of different mental illnesses, and that's ultimately all just for money. So they'll make your kid diagnosed with autism, ADHD, a lot of times post-traumatic stress disorder, which, I mean, to me, any child taken from their home, that's a very traumatic event, and so it's wrong.
Right. Yeah. They're causing the very thing that they're accusing you of causing their children to. Such a devilish trap. Okay, David, I'm going to switch over to you and let you talk about this matter, just the nuts and bolts of what parents can do to help themselves in this situation.
Yeah. So first of all, what I see and what I believe is the best thing to do, in my opinion, is to first of all, don't wait until you have a child protective services situation to be proactive. So with the affidavit that I have, what it's doing is it's providing service and notice to the people in those positions who are not getting trained that their own law says that they can't do this. Because the way that they work is they purposely don't train the police. They purposely don't train CPS. They purposely don't train these people so that when they do the wrong thing, they can say it was in good faith. So I get them before they start now. So when somebody tells me, hey, Dave, I think that CPS is going to mess with me. I heard that somebody was going to make a call or they were mad at me or something like that. I say, look, send in an affidavit to the head of CPS, which will be notice to agent, is notice to principal is notice to agent. So this way, nobody can make an excuse and say that they don't know. I'll send it to the police. I'll send it to the sheriff in the area. So that way, to the governor, to the legislature, so that all parties know that what they're doing is wrong. Because just for example, in the Troxel versus Granville 2000 case, we can find where Washington used to have what they called a state law that was a statute that said that any person could make a petition for your kid at any time and give the court discretion to take them. Now, in that Troxel versus Granville case, you'll hear attorneys say, well, it was found that a grandparent couldn't take the kids from a mother or father. It was found that children are a liberty interest, but they don't tell you what that means usually, and they don't tell you the most important part of the case. In that case, the Washington so-called law was struck down as unconstitutional that gave people permission to petition for your kid. So the very so-called law itself the attorneys won't talk about that because they need us to believe that what we're seeing in these statutes are the law. But we got to look at it like this. God has the highest law. So when we look in the Bible and we look at Daniel and we look at, or the Hebrew boys, we find that they were told to worship the king at a certain time, and they had to bow down to the king, and if you didn't, you would die. Now, the king made a law. That was the law of the land. But God said, don't bow down to a man, worship him only. So they decided not to do that, and God rewarded them for it. So God's law canceled out any edict of a king. In the same way, the legislature, based on Miranda versus Arizona and many other laws and rights we have, they don't have the power to make a law against the people's rights. So as long as nobody challenges it, the court will steal all day and night. They'll take your kids, make money off of them, run thousands of cases like they did in Washington until one person takes it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court says, you guys can't do that. Now, they knew they couldn't do it, but because the people were not educated enough to know they couldn't do it, the deception caused them to lose their children in many cases. So right now, today, it is the same exact thing. They're deceiving you into being involved with them. And the attorneys want the cases, so they're holding back information. So we got to look at something when we make a decision. Many times we can work out of fear, but you got to ask a question. People will say, if you want things to work out for you, you need a good attorney, right? Now you got to challenge that thinking and ask the question. Because if you say, get a good man or woman who knows the law, people are going to say, oh, that's stupid. You'll lose your kids forever. Don't do that. But if you say, get an attorney, they'll say, yeah, that's the right thing. Now you got to ask a question. How many attorneys in America, any state you want to pick, can anyone in the entire country bring forth that has gotten home 5 to 10 kids a month for the last year? And what you're going to find is it doesn't exist. The Bible says, prove all things, hold fast to that which is good. So if there's a misconception that the attorneys are helping us, we need to examine, are the attorneys really helping us? Or are we just accepting in that because we heard it a lot? And so we're getting attorneys, but we have groups where there's 12,000, 15,000, 20,000, 30,000 mothers and fathers who lost with attorneys, and their kids are gone forever. And there's very few people that can say they know attorneys who are getting kids back often. So we're not using critical thinking. So getting an attorney puts you into that fake jurisdiction. And when I say fake jurisdiction, you can go look at the paperwork for any CPS case. It's going to say Title 42 is our authority, right? Title 42 was never passed into positive law by Congress. So the so-called authority of the court does not exist, but because people don't know, and attorneys won't tell you, that Title 42 has never been passed. Like, I will challenge the world for anybody to show that Title 42 has been passed. I dare anybody put in positive law, Title 42, and you're going to see that it's a non-positive law. It's an editorial compilation. So why has no attorney showed us the real documents? Because if you show us the real documents, we're going to know what the truth is. And I'm going to read something real quick to prove exactly what's happening. It says, woe unto you lawyers, for ye have taken away the key of knowledge. Taken away. So when people are trying to figure out how to win, they need the key to give them the knowledge to win. But if they took away the key of knowledge and substituted with something else, and you're looking for knowledge and they give you the wrong information, knowledge and understanding shall prosper thee. That's a biblical concept. So when we look, it says, ye enter not in yourselves, and them that were entering in ye hindered. So those who are trying to enter into knowledge and the truth, they hinder them, and they won't go in themselves. So when you look at the Black's Law Dictionary, you're going to see a key on there mocking this very verse that Jesus said. And so when we understand that Jesus himself told us that the attorneys were going to lie to us, they were going to hide the key of knowledge. But because as a nation, we've been tricked to get rid of God, We don't look at the source of the common law, which is the Bible. We don't believe what Jesus has said, so we trust those who we know are liars. Attorneys are known to be liars in America, but we trust them with our kids, and we've been losing since 1997 like crazy. But for the first time, we have been able to find that in the original public laws that it actually said they don't have the power to take kids. In the ASFA law, it says that they can't interfere with private family, with the private rights of family. They cannot infringe on what kind of choices you make, for instance, like if you want to take vaccinations or not. They can't tell you how to raise your kid. If you want to go to church 5 times a week, they can't tell you can't. But that was hidden from the people. So it actually exists. So I would give the affidavit, which the affidavit has that in there. And then what I would also do is, because the government officials are our trustees, I would write out a contract, which the affidavit is, that says that if you decide to infringe on my right, you as a man agree to pay me this much. Now, the reason I do that is because the Bible tells you if you have an issue with your brother, go to him one-on-one. So I'm going to send you a private affidavit one-on-one, and I'm going to explain what the facts are. And if you don't deny, you accept. If you try to deny, I can get a notary public or another person as a witness, and I can send out something else to establish the facts, or even if they just don't respond. The Bible says bring 1 or 2 others to establish every word. So God is teaching you the common law process. So when you send out the affidavit, they don't deny it, and then you send out something else, let it be known the words that were established, they end up forfeiting their ability to fight you. So now you can be awarded in any court because they failed to respond to your affidavit, which stands as true. So these people are dealing in wickedness, and they're doing it for money. The only thing that stops them from doing stuff for money is the danger of going to jail or hitting them in their pocketbooks. So I say, look, you owe me $5,000 a day per child if you decide to take my little ones. And I put it on 8.5 by 14 paper, so it's legal paper, just like any contract. And I send it to them, and I let them ignore it, or I let them talk back. They usually will not talk back because they lose all immunity if they do. So, which they don't really have immunity, but that perceived immunity it's an eraser, right? So I would send that out first. And then to get to the point with what else I would do, I would not let them in my house. I would tell them, no, you can't enter my home. I will tell them that if they want to take my little ones, they need to have a jury of my peers hear a case first. If you look at ASFA, it actually says that you have to be prosecuted. A jury of your peers had to say that you did something wrong in a judicial court, not an administrative executive branch court, but in a judicial court. And that's another trick. They'll get people from the executive branch to give you what's called a pickup order, and parents think that's a warrant. It's not. A pickup order comes from the attorney for CPS. CPS is under the executive branch, right? So how is the executive branch writing orders for your kids? Only a judge, the judicial department, can give orders. These people are under the executive branch as an independent private business and writing out pickup orders for your kids, and people are giving them away every day. So they're deceiving. And so, but here's the good thing. Because they use executive branch documents under the separation of powers doctrine, only a judge in the judicial branch can make a judicial order. That means that every man or woman who got their kids taken and people were writing orders in Title IV courts, it doesn't exist. It's a whole fraud and a scam.
This is very, very good. So I want to make it clear to people that this, for example, is why Timothy Homseth fired his own attorney. These attorneys are working as part and parcel of the system. They are part of this whole admiralty, Navy law that they're going to tell you, oh yeah, we'll help you. We'll try to help you with your children, but they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that, folks. All they're going to do is confuse the situation, and you're going to wind up having your children taken from you. So if your first instinct is, oh, I got to go get an attorney, that's not the way to go. I know I'm going to have a lot of viewers that are going to want to contact you, David, and you, Holly. Is there a way that people can reach out to you to ask questions?
Well, I'm David Jose on Facebook. David Jose is my first name. My actual name is a very long name. I got 4 names from my mom, but David Jose is my name on Facebook. People can meet me through Facebook. We also have a website where it is a kind of like a squeeze page. So it takes your name, phone number, and email, and then it, in response, sends you a copy of the affidavit. It sends you a video explaining why I did the affidavit the way that I did, and the reason for doing those things and the effect that happens when you do it. So it explains the affidavit, and that is bringourkidshome.com. Bringourkidshome.com.
Okay.
And it's free.
Not everybody has Facebook, so bringourkidshome.com. And I'm also going to link that right below this video, guys. And in fact, I'll even pin it in the comment section. Bring our kids home. So if you're a parents, and you're in the situation right now, go to that website, get this information. Holly, go ahead.
I was gonna say one big thing, because it has online sales pro on the website, because David's gotten trolled before. He does not, first off, he doesn't give legal advice. He is offering what he has learned, and you do not pay for this information. If you're a parent that just wants to know what are these laws, what is actually going on, but it does not cost anything to sign up and to get this information from David. And as for me, I'm just on Facebook under Holly Ann, so I'd be certainly willing to take any questions when people message, if they have anything and they're in a case.
Okay.
Hey, can I say one more thing really quickly?
Yeah, actually, I was going to ask you both, because before we end, I want to make sure that you guys talk about everything you want to talk. So go ahead, David.
Yeah, so first of all, I do want to say that online sales pro, so I am a businessman, so I do real estate and investing and different things. So I already own that system, and what it does is the system allows for you to be able to collect names, emails, and phone numbers for anything that you have to. And you can reply to those people with a single email that'll go to everybody. So that's the only reason it says online sale pro, because I own that system already. It's what's called a CRM. So yes, there is no cost for the affidavits or anything like that. Just like in scriptures, though, where you see where the Herodians would come together with the Pharisees, what we found is that there are a big number of people who we actually found connected to traffickers. There are a big number of people who were truckers, which is crazy because we've been getting information that the children were being trafficked inside of 18-wheelers. And so there's a big group of truckers who are on Facebook who, if you just go look, you're going to find they're connected with literal witches, real Satanists, real people who have pictures talking about pedophilia on their page. And there is a big group of paid trolls and actors, just like crisis actors, that come on and they lie and say, I got charged for affidavit, and if you ask them to show the documents, they never have it. They got all these things that they say about me. I killed 50 people. I'm a drug dealer, all this crazy stuff. You can trace my life on Facebook all the way back. I'm a college educated man. I have a degree. I've trained people in business across the world. So you can see what's happening. Satan actually has people who are paid to attack people. And it's getting so good now that they're attacking people all across the movement. So right now there are about 30 or 40 people that they attack every single day, make videos, make fake dossiers. They're also hackers. So you're going to see a lot of accounts that really have no information on it or no face. They may have a face or a picture of an animal many times. And what they do is they put up fake articles that say Kent Hovind on it and other things. And when you click on the article, it'll say like Kent Hovind against David Jose. When you click on the article, they hack into the parents' phones. They take pictures out your phones, information out your phones, and this is all the parents. And these people make dossiers on parents to turn them into CPS. So as the mothers and fathers who are watching this video start to pursue information and knowledge on Facebook, they're going to run into these people. And they have to be careful because these people will literally take your information, call CPS, and turn you in. They do it all the time. And so, and it's not with the truth. That's the bad thing. They will blackmail you. They'll make up stories. They'll say, hey, Daniel beat up somebody in the middle of the parking lot with his kid watching. And then they'll call CPS on you. And this is a big group of trolls. So there's a couple of hundred of them. They have a open Facebook page that they use. So we have to be very careful because as fast as we are knocking down this satanic system, just like the Herodians made fake stories that they saw Jesus curse the king and all this stuff, this is exactly what these people are doing. And they don't care about you knowing the truth because we know the truth, right? We can look at the scriptures, we can see a lie. Their whole goal is to prevent the parents from learning about what's happening because the trafficking system is carried out through CPS. So if we shut it down, they lose tons of money. They lose children that they like to rape and sacrifice to their god Molech. And they lose out on what they see as a benefit with the system. So we are really taking them down fast. It's collapsing. So the parents need to know that because they're going to be inundated with disinformation to stop them from doing what's right.
Absolutely. Wow. Thank you, David. That's very, very, very well put. And again, I hope if people take one thing from this interview, it is that you should not be relying on the present court system, the way that it works, or the preconceived notions we have about attorneys helping us. That's not where we should be, especially those of my subscribers, those of you who are blood-bought, blood-washed servants of the Messiah. We have Yah on our side. We have the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We have the Messiah, Jesus. He is on our side. If we're going to take the right stand, just like Daniel's 3 friends did in Babylon, he's going to bless you. He's going to help you. And I know it seems sort of overwhelming because we're thinking, wow, we're coming against the very fabric of the judicial system, at least the way it's set up in the way they want us to think it's set up. But you do the right thing. You proceed with this with prayer, you will be victorious. And David has seen that happen with many people that he's helped. Holly, do you have anything else that you'd like to share before we wrap up today?
Yeah, I just kind of want to make sure that people realize, like, a lot of these people, I'd like to give some people benefit of the doubt. There's a lot of police officers, I think, especially like some of the CPS workers, that they think they're just doing their job. It's letting them know first off, and that's what's so great about the affidavit. It's like, hey, go back to the Constitution, especially if you're a cop or a judge or an attorney. It's like, you know, that's what you swore oath to uphold. And it's kind of just going back to the more simple things, because like I said, the Constitution was never meant to be complicated for people. It was to ensure our life and liberty, free from government interference. And if anybody does want to take any of these away, then we are guaranteed due process. What is due process? Again, it is outlined in our Constitution. And so there's a lot of unnecessary suffering happening because just a lot of people do not know. So to me, know what rights you have. Knowledge is power. Read over your state constitution. And that's another big part of it, because if you don't have an attorney, you are standing as a man or a woman, state national, that you can use your state constitution then to stand on, which has the Bill of Rights just like our United States Constitution.
Absolutely. Oh, hallelujah. All right. Thank you.
Can I give one verse, Daniel? Can I give a verse for the people real quick?
Go ahead, David.
All right, guys. So Daniel just made a big point. We don't need to trust in the system, but we do need to trust in the God of heaven. And one thing that you can see that the God of heaven let us know is in Psalm 34, is going to be verse 19 through 22. And you got to hear this because it's going to strengthen you. It says, many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivereth him out of them all. He keepeth all his bones, not one of them is broken. Evil shall slay the wicked, and they that hate the righteous shall be desolate. The Lord redeemeth the soul of his servants, and none of them that trust in him shall be desolate. So we need to stand together and trust and remember what God said, because his promises are yea. That means they're going to happen. The God of heaven cannot lie. So we need to start trusting in the truth and stand up together as a people, because we give the governments the power.
Amen. Amen. Hallelujah. Very good. And guys, the one of the main reasons that I wanted to have Holly and David on today, you know, I've talked a lot about how the abuses that's going on in CPS and the foster care system and adoption agencies, it's all feeding these satanic pedophiles. It's all tied into the child sex trafficking that I talk about every day. But I've had so many people contact me by email, by letters saying, well, I'm a parent, I'm in the middle of this, what do? I can't wait for the whole judicial system to be revamped or for Trump to put a stop to this, even though he is, I believe, going to put a great deal of stop to this. I do believe, and I'm praying that CPS and all of these organizations are disbanded. They need to be. But this video is to give you practical tips, helps of what you can do right now, here and now, to make sure your children are not taken from you. So please go to this website. Please reach out to David and Holly. This is very, very important information for those of you who need this help. And we can do what we can now before Trump makes any of these, you know, major moves against CPS, just by standing, like what David said and what Holly said, just by standing on the Bible, on the simplicity of his truth, and in faith, filled with the Spirit, we can do and protect our children. Hallelujah. David, Holly, thank you so much.
Thank you.
For today.